Welcome back. Now, the National Social Security Fund is always in the news, at least in the past, for many wrong reasons. Controversies around the management of the fund, its investments, and finally, the nature of social security in this country. But there's a new act which was enacted last year, the National Social Security Act 2013, which came into force in January this year. Its implementation will defer to the 31st of this month, May. And in the studio this morning, we have the new managing trustee of the National Social Security Fund, Mr. Richard Langat, to just shed light on what the new act provides and the new charges that you have to pay as an insured member of the National Social Security Fund. Welcome, Mr. Langat.
Thank you.
And of course, Mutegi is back after enjoying his Friday last week. Now, let's start with the new act that came into force this year, but was deferred to commencement last month. So this becomes the first month when it takes effect, right?
Yes.
What are the significant changes that the new act introduces in NSSF?
Okay, thank you, Makali. The new NSSF Act number 45 of 2013 was assented into law by the President on the 24th of December last year. It became effective on the 10th of January this year. However, a few sections of the Act, section 18, 20, and 21, were deferred by the Cabinet Secretary for Labour to take effect from the 31st of May this year. Effectively, we are saying the Act becomes effective from 1st of June going forward.
This month, right?
This month,
Yes.
1st of June going forward. So we expect as an NSSF the first contributions to the new fund to kick in this month. What the new Act entails is that it's changing the old NSSF, which was premised on Cap 258, from a provident fund
Yes.
to a pension scheme, a pension fund, where contributions will now be paid. Once the contributions will kick in,
Yes.
but benefits will be pensions on a monthly basis, as opposed to the lump sum payments we used to make under the provident fund, Cap 258, that is.
What do you mean monthly? So the contributors will earn at the end of the when they get into retirement, when they leave employment, they'll be paid monthly.
Yes.
As opposed to one
lump sum payment.
So to speak, retirement package.
What happens is that the members will now be drawing monthly pension earnings into their retirement.
Yes.
As opposed to the one-off payment,
Yes.
which we used to make under the provident fund.
Is that what the people want?
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Who said so?
What we want to say is that basically what happens is this: when we pay a one-off payment of say 200,000 shillings to Mr. Mutegi Njau, that money may not be of much help to you into retirement because it's just a one-off which we pay now, and that is it. As opposed to regular earnings that are comparable to your current monthly salary earnings into the future. So it helps you in life
Continuous to live. But
Yes.
the argument will be that people who want a lump sum will take that money and go and invest in something that they can do, whether it's business that perhaps will generate more profit or, improve on their standards of living than if you earn piecemeal. What was this really considered, as Mutegi says, and this became the popular desire?
You see, what happens is this, David. Kenyans actually are poor savers. That's number one.
Yes.
Poor savers in the sense that we all want to consume now. So that when we retire, we are not able to sustain life, to sustain our consumption into the future.
Right.
As opposed to a situation where pensions kick in every other month. If we were to pay you anything now,
Yes.
I don't.
After 6 months, you'll have nothing.
I don't refuse the fact that we want to have that lump sum to invest.
Yeah.
But the point of investment should also be during your working life, not necessarily to wait until you are retiring to get a lump sum to start investing.
Right.
Investment should be an ongoing process, which we need to really look at. But ILO conventions show that if you retire, when you retire, somebody should be able to earn some level of income to sustain
their
life. The ILO figures indicate about 42% of your current earnings as income replacement. So that when you are in retirement, if you are earning anything between 40 and 45% of your current earnings, you are deemed to be comfortable in retirement. This act, the NSF Act now, the figures we have worked on, the rates we are promising, is that you will be guaranteed at about 43% of your current earnings in retirement as pension.
43%?
43%.
So let's assume a standard average civil servant who earns 60,000 shillings before tax.
Yes.
When they retire, okay, let's say after tax, that's what matters. What after comes tax to your account.
Yes.
If you earn average 40,000, you're likely to be earning about 18,000 or 15,000 after
16,
you retire.
18, yes.
After you retire.
After you retire.
For what duration?
Until
you die.
You die.
And
that is a promise.
This becomes effective after you hit age 50, which is 60, which is the retirement age. I can see it's graduated. You can leave at 50, right?
Yes.
To 60 and so on.
Yes.
So when you leave at 50 employment, you'll be entitled to that earning retirement.
As long as you'll have contributed for at least 36 months. 36 months, because that is a period within which you can start earning a pension. 36 continuous contributions from your current employment is when you can start earning your pension.
Isn't it the case that maybe the government felt that it has no money to pay people ransom, so they decided to graduate it so that you pay every month? Because in fact, there was a time when civil servants were told to retire at 60, because perhaps the reason they can't afford to pay.
Mr.
Is that a valid argument?
No. What happens is this. You see, NSSF is different from government. Government has its own pension plan, which has been in place. Unfunded, though, because it's only the government that contributes to that. However, this act now brings on board government as one, an employer, two, as a guarantor of public, of the public. So members of the government, of the civil service, going forward, we are in negotiations with the Treasury to see how it can be funded, are obliged to be members of NSSF. So NSSF per se is different from the pension arrangements which government had. Ours as NSSF is to guarantee social security, the basic social security for all workers in this country, in the sense that it now becomes mandatory for every Kenyan to be a member of NSSF in an arrangement that we will call Tier 1. Tier 1 is where every employer in this country must contribute to NSSF. That is what the law now says. What we need to understand also is that the Act allows for opting out, in the sense that it is graduated, that we have Tier 1 contributions, Tier 2 contributions. Tier 1 contributions is up to the minimum wage as prescribed by the Minister for Labour at any given time. Currently, it stands at 6,000 shillings, minimum wage. So the promises NSSF is giving to the public is that Tier 1 must come to NSSF. Tier 2 can go to any scheme, any arrangement which an employer has for its employees. Yes. In the absence of any arrangement, those contributions must come to NSSF.
Mm-hmm.
So if Royal Media has a pension scheme,
you can apply to the Retirement Benefits Authority.
To be registered.
You must be registered first. If you have a pension scheme,
yes.
then you must have been registered by the Retirement Benefits Authority.
Yes. Right.
You can now apply for an opt-out.
From the NSSF.
From the NSSF.
So that is recognized, yes.
But for Tier 2 contributions only. Tier 1 contributions are mandatory.
Tier 1 means what? Those people earning less than 6,000?
6,000 shillings,
6,000.
anything, your earnings up to 6,000 shillings is what we call tier 1
Tier 1.
contribution. So you will get 6% of that amount, up to 6,000, that is 360, will come to NSSF. That is the first point. Anything above that will now be contracted out if you apply to the Retirement Benefits Authority and you are given that exemption. However, those contributions shall be protected. It shall not be accessed
By the employer?
by the employer or even the employee
Yes.
until retirement age. So they are protected in that sense. It is only meant for pension
Yes.
and not for anything else before.
And then tier 3. Let's talk about the third.
Tier 3, you can take it to any scheme, any arrangement you have with your employer or even yourself as a person. You can take it to a contracted scheme, an individual scheme, an insurance company. It's up to the contributor.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's look at the other fundamental change introduced by this act, which is the amounts being charged. Initially, okay, now the employer has to pay 6%, and the employee 6%, up to a certain earning, right?
Yeah.
What is it? What are the details there?
Okay. The Act provides for 6% of the employee's pensionable earnings to be contributed to NSSF and the same amount by the employer. As I said, the minimum that is mandatory to be paid to NSSF.
320 shillings.
360.
60, right? Yes.
6,000, 6% of that is 360.
Yes.
Employee, employer.
Employer.
That comes to NSSF. In the first year, the Act provides for phasing in so that it doesn't create a lot of disharmony in the industry, it doesn't create a lot of disharmony in the pay slips of employees.
Yeah.
So it's phased in over a period of 5 years. In the first year, we will be charging 6% of 50% of the national average earnings. 50% of the national average earnings, in which case the national average earnings currently is 36,000 shillings. 50% of that is 18,000 shillings.
Right.
6% of the 18,000 shillings will be 1,080. 1,080 is what is due to NSSF as both Tier 1 and Tier 2.
Right.
If you apply now to opt out to a retirement scheme approved by RBA, the difference between the 360 and the 1080 is what can go to another scheme. The rest can still go to your scheme.
Okay.
So that is the first year.
Yes.
50% of national average earnings,
Yes.
which is 18,000 now.
Yeah.
In the second year, that will be next year now.
Yes.
It will be 1 time the national average earnings. That's the equivalent of the national average earnings.
Yes.
The third year, will be 2 times national average earnings, 3 times national average earnings, until the 5th year when it now becomes fully implemented. That is when the real effect of the 6% will be felt.
Yes.
But there is a capping.
Yes.
The capping here is up to a maximum of 140,000 shillings, because we believe anybody earning above 140,000 shillings can and is able to make his own arrangement for
After retirement. Yes, yes.
So we cap it at 140,000 shillings. That is...
So any money earned above that will not be subject to the remittance of 6% or, okay, 12%.
12%, yes. What we are saying is, if you still feel, as David,
yes,
you want to save more,
yes,
for your retirement, please, you are welcome.
You can
still volunteer
to contribute more.
What we want to say is that voluntary contribution is allowed. Not necessarily that you have to do 6%.
Yes.
You can do 10%, 15%, whatever you are comfortable with.
Yes.
I want to draw a few comparisons here.
Yeah.
In Uganda, for example, the benefits, the contribution rates are 5% employee, 10% employer.
Yes.
That's a total of 15%. NSSF Kenya, we are talking about 6%, that's 12. Tanzania, next door, is 10%, 10%. That's a total of 20%.
Yeah.
Rwanda, Next door still is 15%, 15% in contributions. That is 30%. What is coming out here is, much as we really want to improve on the social security of our people,
Yes.
in Kenya we are still at the low rates, very low rates.
Yeah.
Do not forget also that the old Act, Cap 258, as repealed, promised in the Act itself, the levels of contributions were 5%, 5%.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, some capping was introduced, where at inception it was capped at 40 shillings, 40 shillings. Then it was reviewed to 80 shillings, 80, but it was still 5%, 5%. And then it was moved to 160, 160. Then it was moved to, actually it was moved to 80, 80 to make it 160, and then 200, 200. If the capping was removed,
Yes.
we would still be, we would have been very much within some good level of pensions, as opposed to what we have gone through in the last 48 or so years.
Now, there's a flurry of questions, Langat. This is, of course, an education session for a lot of people. I mean, this is a complicated area. A lot of people don't understand how they benefit from contributing to NSSF. Now, somebody asks here, what about those who left work and now they are self-employed? Are they entitled to pension, or they have to wait until they are 60 years old?
Let me clarify something. One, the new Act number 45 of 2013 created two funds.
The old and the new?
No, no, no. The old is there,
Yes.
which is supposed to close within 5 years.
Okay.
That is what the law says. And then it creates a pension fund and a provident fund. A provident fund for the self-employed. So anybody who would still want to contribute towards retirement,
Yes,
in form of the provident fund on the almost the same terms as it were before, you can still continue contributing. So there is a provision for a provident fund in the current Act. For somebody who has retired or left employment and in self-employment,
yes,
wishing to continue to contribute, you are welcome to contribute as a voluntary member.
The question is not about contributing. The question is getting
I'm
whatever you
getting
want
there.
to contribute.
I'm getting there.
So anybody who is not employed, you can join as a voluntary member, and
Yes.
you still be entitled as if you are employed.
No, you will now be in the provident fund.
Okay.
The provident fund.
Not in the pension.
On the terms as they were in the old Act.
Where you get paid your lump sum.
Your lump sum at the end of...
Right, that is the difference.
At some
that
point,
if you're
yes.
on the provident fund, you get paid your lump sum of what you had saved.
Yes.
But on the pension, you'll get monthly earnings after you hit retirement.
Okay.
Now
But
the question.
The question is, I know Kenyans want to access their money, their savings now, because they really need maybe to invest and do that kind of thing. But as I said before, these savings we are making to NSSF are protected. They are only meant for life
after retirement.
At retirement. And the retirement age is 60 currently. In the absence of that, you can also do an early retirement at 50.
Yes.
You can access your money at 50 going forward. So at that point, that is the only leeway
so
you can
if you contribute, if you're employed now and you are contributing, you cannot access your money at all.
It's
until
protected.
That time you'll be 60.
Because they are
Even
protected.
if you become jobless at 25 or at 30, that money is not accessible to you until 60. That's what
until
the
50.
is to.
Until 50. Until 50.
Which then you'll be called early retirement.
Yes.
But if you are jobless at 35, you cannot say you have retired early at 50. Or how will you handle that situation of people who fell out of employment?
You know, we believe at 35, you can still engage in gainful employment and not rely on savings meant for retirement.
Right.
You can still be engaged fully in some form of employment, which you can use to generate your earnings to sustain you until that age when we feel you are now due for a pension.
What about people who have a 60 and they're still working? Can they get their money?
If there is proof that you are still working,
Yeah.
you will have to wait a little longer
Why?
to access that money.
Why?
Because you are still in gainful employment.
But I want my money.
You are
I'm
still
60.
in gainful employment.
I'm 60.
You see, Mutegi, it's good. It's good. You see,
Yeah.
this money is meant to cushion you when you are not able to do anything.
Yes.
If you are 60 and you are still working,
Which is my case. Yes.
it is your case, fine.
Yes.
But you are still in gainful employment.
Yes.
Why would you want to have earned pension when you are still working?
Because it's my money.
He's
I've
entitled
no,
to,
you
he's
see,
enti- you know what, Lagat?
what we are
I
trying-
must come to the
I've-
defense
no,
of
no, what
Mutegi.
we are trying to do.
I have saved since I was 18.
No, what we are
Now
trying
I'm
to do.
60. I want my money.
What we are trying to do here is to secure you when you are not
helpless.
able
Yeah.
to work.
But Langat, I think that's a very serious
Because-
predicament
Yeah.
which must be considered by NSSF. Because the point of saving, because it's my money, I'm saving for that time I can't work. But if I still, by God's grace, have some energy to work like Mutegi, past 60,
Yeah.
why should I be denied my due? Because I'm slugging on.
Okay.
It is very complicated.
You see,
right?
you can access that money at 60
Yes.
when you are not working.
Yeah.
For honest sake, it is prudent for everybody. It is prudent
Yes.
to even grow that contribution
Yes.
you are making.
Yes.
From 60 even to 65. Please grow it so that your pensionable earnings will also grow.
The problem is this, Langate.
When-
The problem with that proposition is this, that somebody hopes that they'll have, this is their money, they feel entitled to it, that after I hit 60, I retire. But I may not retire at that time. So if this man who is past 60 continues to work in some form or the other on contract or whatever up to 70 and dies at 75 or 70,
what's the money for?
he will never have enjoyed his savings in his lifetime. Isn't that unfair?
It is not unfair.
You need to,
in the sense-
perhaps what he should do, my proposal, is you say, then at 60, stop your contributions to NSSF, opt out, continue earning your pension, but continue working. How about that?
Okay.
Yeah.
The thinking about pension is slightly different from that. Pension is to guarantee you when you are not able to earn any monthly earning,
Yeah.
monthly salary.
Yes.
So we are looking at it in that dimension so that we are able to cushion you in future. Number
Okay.
two, we do not want to foresee a situation where access to these contributions is
Opened up, free.
opened up
Yes.
easily, because that will definitely open floodgates,
Yes.
and it will become a bit problematic in managing it. So it's
But-
good to be very honest.
But where is the money in NSSF? Where is the money?
Wait,
As-
before we go to that, Mutegi, we'll get into the management of
Okay,
NSSF,
okay,
but
okay.
there's some questions here. Somebody says, I was retrenched 14 years ago. I have not contributed since then because I'm jobless. What happens? That's Nancy from Eldred.
She was returned 14 years ago.
Yes, and she has not been employed since then.
Is she 50?
Not yet,
Not yet.
definitely.
Not yet. So accessing NSSF contributions as per the repealed act
Yes.
still requires that you have to be 50 years. You see, this 50-year rule
Yeah.
did not come with a new act.
Yeah,
It has
was
always been there.
Yeah.
So if you are not in gainful employment and
Yes.
you are 50,
Yes.
you can access your contributions. Without that, the same reason holds, that we believe you can still be engaged in some gainful employment.
This world is tough. People are jobless and they've saved and they can't be helped by their pension or their provident fund. Isn't
we are
that unfair?
No, it's not unfair. It's not unfair in the sense, David,
Yeah.
in the sense that we want to secure your future.
Because in the process, you may not live up to that 50 years. If you are if you're desperate, you're
No,
jobless,
you see,
perhaps that earning would help that person to actually continue living.
No. You see, contributions, as I said, are meant to cushion you in later life, not now. So the law then and
Because
the law
the
now.
presumption, Richard, is that later life will be 50 years. Your later life may be 35, 40. You may never make it to 60 or 50. what happens? That's really a, a tough
Is it
question. but-
pension funds, eh?
What's the lifespan
Yeah,
according to
our life
pension funds.
Is it 45?
expectancy is 55 in this country, I
Is
think.
it 45 or
55.
50, I think it's 55.
Is right,
Yeah.
55.
55?
Yeah.
We are even coming down to say at 50 you can access when you are not working.
Okay.
So pension arrangements
Are for after.
afterlife.
So you have to struggle hard to live up to 50. In short, to those who are asking that question, in order to enjoy your retirement.
Let us ask about the
benefit.
management.
Now, let me come to one more question. Somebody says, before we go to the investments, how do I access my statement of contributions to NSSF? What is the procedure? That is from
We want to
Hambe in Lodwar.
Okay, we want to be honest that previously our systems have not been very good, but now we have installed very good systems to manage the pension arrangement, and we are now able to get member statements on time. The system before had a lot of issues in the sense that employers would send in their contributions without the requisite returns, so that I wouldn't know how much David has contributed, I wouldn't know how much Mutegi has contributed. But now, going forward, the system will not accept contributions without returns.
Yeah.
So we are able now to give updated and fully posted statements so that members can access and know their balances at any given time. Now, to get statements, we can ask members to go to any of our branches around the country. We are now at 57 branches countrywide, literally in almost all counties now, save for a few which we are working on. We are shortly going to open a few more branches. But we are also leveraging on the technology so that we are able to access statements online. With your NSSF registration membership number, you should be able to log on our website
and get the details.
And then get the details and get your statement updated.
Okay, I'll just fire off these questions because they're important. I think this is an education session. Just if you can answer them in quick one, yes, no. What if you resign, not retire at 45? Can you access your money when you reach 50?
Yes.
I think the answer is yes. When someone retires at 55 years, would she or he access his NSSF benefits?
Yes.
That's yes. How about someone who is above 65 and could still be employed or working? Again,
that we had said you have not to, you are not supposed to be working to access that money.
Okay. I'm a contributor to a pension fund called Lab Trust, and the NSSF should not force us to contribute to NSSF. That's Kip Kemoi. What do you say about that?
It is not NSSF forcing.
Yeah.
This is the law of the country. It is not about David or anybody else or who.
Yeah.
It is a law that has to be followed. Let's appreciate one fact, David. Before this act came into law, you would realize that only about 350,000 Kenyans have arrangements, pension arrangements, with their employers or with insurance and everybody else. Only 350,000, around there.
Yeah.
We are talking about over 4 million, between 4-6 million Kenyans out there who have been contributing 200 shillings to NSSF and waiting for some form of social security, some retirement package at the end of the day.
Yeah.
That is the focus NSSF is looking at. I know Lab Trust and all the other pension schemes out there. Number one, we are only asking, the law requires that we do the mandatory 6%. Anything above will be taken by Lab Trust, will be taken by any other scheme. That is why that clause for contracting out was included in the Act. Okay. So that you don't crowd out the other schemes in operation. So basically, that is what we want to ask Kenyans to support the implementation of this Act, because it guarantees the basic minimum for anybody.
Right.
Number one, Number two is that this is a government guaranteed pension scheme.
Yeah.
It's guaranteed by government of Kenya.
Yeah. So it can't go under.
It can't go under.
Okay. Let's come to the crucial part. In fact, people are asking, what do you do with all this money?
Yeah.
The other day, the president spoke about investments that don't help people to. I mean, we don't invest in the economy to generate jobs. This past of buying plots, rocks, and things like that. I think he's very concerned about this.
Let me give a little history about the old NSSF. I think it will help us understand and put things in perspective. The stories of buying quarries and buying a land and that kind of thing happened not yesterday. It happened, to be very honest, between 93, 99, around there.
Mm.
That is the time the purchasing of land, idle land, and
right.
that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So NSSF has lived through a history where there were interferences here and there. That is agreed. But again, where we are now is we are subject to the Retirement Benefits Authority. We must comply with the provisions of the Retirement Benefits Authority. So the investment guidelines as given by the Retirement Benefits Authority are what guides investments of NSSF funds now. There are categories where you cannot invest more than some percentages given there. For example, in land, you cannot do more than 30%. Investments in land or real estate. Let's call it real estate because
houses, building,
all that.
Buying, yeah.
Not more than 30%. Government paper, you can do up to 70%. Stock exchange, you can do up to 70%. Offshore, 5%. Those are guidelines given by the Retirement Benefits Authority. NSSF going forward, and this has happened from 2011, the year 2011,
yes,
when NSSF management decided not to be making investments as NSSF management. Right. It's now monies are collected, contributions are collected through a custodian and passed on to fund managers. We have 6 fund managers now who are
looking for potential investment.
According to the guidelines set by the RBA,
yeah,
and according to our investment policy.
Yeah, okay.
Statement.
In a nutshell, because we are short of time, where is NSSF money going now? What are the projects that you're putting money in? We
are in government paper, a lot of it.
Bonds?
We are in, government paper, treasury bills, treasury bonds.
Yeah.
We are in infrastructure bonds. We are in the stock exchange. A substantial amount of our money is in the stock exchange, and we are getting good returns for that in terms of dividends. We are in real estate. There is still real estate. Take an example. We did Nyayo Estate in Bakassi, 4,774 houses, fully sold. We are doing...
What about that issue about the infrastructure there?
I'll explain that.
What about that?
We are doing Milimani apartments, 104 units, which is an upmarket investment.
Constructing and selling or rental?
For selling.
All right.
About
that infrastructure.
Let me give you the story about the TASIA.
Yes.
That's
the controversial one.
It's not controversial.
Yes.
Because TASIA did not start yesterday. This is a story that happened in the early 2000s. That land was still bought in the 90s.
Right.
From a vendor by NSSF. Unfortunately, we did not secure the property, and people invaded land and subdivided, allocated themselves units, plots, and monies were paid to some people who purported to have been selling the plots. Sometime in 2004, one of the I want to call them, I don't want to call them grabbers, but one of the persons who had acquired a portion of that land irregularly went to court, and NSSF won the case. an eviction order was granted to NSSF to evict everybody who was settling on that land. But owing to the situation then, and it was agreed by the board that an arrangement be looked into so that the same land can be sold off to the people who are already residing on that land. That is what happened. A lot of those people bought the land, cash purchases, others entered into agreements with NSSF to pay over a period of time, 15-year tenant purchase agreement, and others are still continuing to pay, to repay for their plots. Now, sometime that 2008, the Board of Trustees of NSSF agreed that an infrastructure development has to be developed so that whoever has finished paying for their plots can get title to their land. That was a decision imposed on NSSF by Nairobi City Council then, that there was no way they were going to do to give sectional titles if the infrastructure development is not done on the project. The board sat, agreed. The first bills of quantities were done. It came to 4.5 billion shillings. That amount was supposed to be shared, and it is still supposed to be shared by the plot owners, because all along when all these things are happening, plot owners were made to understand, including in paid up adverts, individual letters to the plot owners were done, that at some point in time when a decision is made, plot owners are supposed to pay for the infrastructure development. The board sat, agreed, and said, fine, this is the way to go. But at that point, the management decided, because the costs appeared huge, decided to remove some portions of the BQs, access to individual plots.
Yeah.
To remove that,
Yeah.
please allow me to finish.
Yes, you'll have to
access to individual plots.
Yes.
Individual plots, so that the cost could come down to 3.3 billion.
Yes.
That was approved.
Yes.
That was in 2008. 2008, I think, yeah. In 2013, we went to tender. The tender returned a figure of 4.6 billion.
Yes.
Almost the same figure which we had in 2008,
Yes.
of 4.5 billion. Number two, the Nairobi City Council, the county government now, insisted that those accesses to individual plots have to be done.
Yes.
Those are the conditions imposed on NSSF. If they are not done, nobody, even if you had cleared paying for your plot,
Yes.
will get title,
Yes.
sectional title for that. That is the process we went through, and this is where we are.
Has the matter been resolved anyway?
It is before Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, Public Investments
Yeah, it's being
Committee,
I think, yeah.
Labour Committee of Parliament.
Okay.
It's still a matter.
But
Yeah.
it will still it will be resolved.
So what you are saying basically is that the future of NSSF is now brighter. I mean, the scandals and the controversies that have dogged us in the past before you became MD, managing trustee,
why would you want to believe that?
are gone.
Yes,
Why would you want to believe that?
I want to believe that because the new act, as is now, allows for very robust governance structure. Before, the managing trustee was an appointee of the cabinet secretary.
Yeah.
Now, the managing trustee is an appointee of the board
And recruited competitively.
and recruited competitively by
Yeah.
the board.
Yeah.
So that is the checks and balance I want to assure Kenyans.
You've also
Number two,
Yeah.
management of NSSF now will not be as it was before. The Act provides that administration expenses will be capped at a maximum of 2% from inception of this Act,
yes.
and to go down to 1.5% by year 5.
Okay.
That reduces the wastages that have been there, and it compares favorably with all the other schemes in the market.
Okay.
That is the structure.
Well, I guess we have to leave it there. A lot of questions. This should have been NSSF clinic. Because
the questions are really, really many. People thinking that it's not fair that somebody who has contributed, they believe this is the money, should not benefit from it until they are 60. Others think that, so what if somebody dies before 60? In fact, the truth is that a lot of people may not make the 60 years, given our own life expectancy at 55, and then you take the money and then you say they can only benefit after 60 when they may never make 60 years. Very serious issues. I don't know whether in coming up with this act sufficient consultation, opinion was sought, participation of the workers and employers.
I can quickly say that participation in the promulgation of this act
Yes.
was extensive,
Okay.
very extensive, because one, we had engagements with employer bodies,
FKE and so on. Yeah.
we had engagements with the employee bodies, we had engagement with the government, including even the Editors Guild. We had an engagement with them. We robustly went through the process
Okay.
to get this act in place, even before enactment in Parliament. There is that window where public is invited to participate.
Yes.
And everybody was free to do that at that
Okay.
point.
Okay.
So the engagements were as robust as possible, and
Yes.
we believe this will take Kenya forward, especially in terms of social security.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Richard Langat, Managing Trustee of the NSSF, talking about the new NSSF Act which takes effect this month. So your contributions are going to be increased 6%, the employer 6%, 12%, taking effect this month. That was the brief why we discussed this act this morning. I hope it was beneficial. Many questions there we can't answer. I'm sure you can access the NSSF offices, county, and online as well. Thank you for watching.